I don't stand side by side with nobody till I bleed with them first.
What did we just see? You probably think this world is a dream come true.
When I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted.
Don't sleep on Luca!
Maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42.
If you fight for your dreams will fight for you.
The following video is an analysis of a song, and anything stated is not meant to be an assumption or statement about that artist or their life. Grown Man is a song by Atlanta rapper SwaVay. The song originates off of SwaVay's 2022 release, Almeida Sun. My first time hearing SwaVay was on the 2018 Into the Spider-Verse album, but this album was my first full introduction. I enjoyed this album so much it actually landed on my top 10 albums of 2022, right at number 9. The overall album is a dark, gritty look into the life of SwaVay, from early life all the way to the present time. Its overall sound may be off-putting to some, but it's a genuine, real encapsulation of real life. And personally, I think no track best sums up SwaVay's artistry more than Grown Man. The song begins and the instrumental already pulls you into its setting. The beat has that old school hip hop feel, but the piano at the same time helps paint this grim setting, almost in the sense that you can already tell this is going to be a very serious track. SwaVay opens up the track stating how he's been the man of his house essentially since he was a toddler. He says he didn't even get a chance to put his sippy cup down before becoming a man. He also states that he raised his mom and didn't have time to slip up. Already we get this grim image of a child never getting the chance to be normal, instead having to learn the harsh realities of the world from an early age, having to take care of his single mother, having to deal with bullying for being poor, having to learn from an early age what poor means and why it makes him different from other kids. And we soon learn the effects that this can have on a kid, such as anger issues. He talks about how his anger with poverty would lead him to crime, robbing people of their belongings. But his anger is not only directed towards poverty. In fact, his anger goes down to the root of his entire life, his father. SwaVay himself says that no matter how hard life gets, he will never reach out to his father for help. He will never seek him for any type of help. He says when he grows up, the only reason he's going to visit his father is for him and his gang to hit him up. SwaVay ends off the first verse talking about the rest of his early life. He talks about roaches in the box of Fruit Loops, wanting to be like his family member who had a gun, and most importantly, that he's a grown man who doesn't need any pity. For me, I feel like this first verse is from the eyes of SwaVay as a child. It recounts a lot of the emotions and thoughts he had as a child. The anger towards his father for leaving, the only influence being his surroundings such as crime and violence, this leading him to having thoughts such as robbery and going after his father being the solutions to his life problems. And like a typical kid, he doesn't want people to baby him and try and tell him that he's wrong. Because of everything he's gone through, he feels he is grown enough to handle it all and believes that these are the true solutions to his problems. This continues into his teen years. In the second verse, SwaVay talks about moving out of his mom's house at 19. The key detail, however, is that his mom didn't kick him out. He voluntarily left because he didn't want his mom going through his stuff, potentially finding something. Whatever that something may be, it connects to the idea that he doesn't want to be lectured or essentially receive aid or help. He thinks of himself as a grown man. He's had to do it all himself since he was little. Why should he listen to anybody? However, it's the next life experience that wakes him up to the truth, the real reality. He took his studio equipment and clothes and moved in with his girl at the time. As he puts it, he was there for a year and change. And yet, the entire time he was there, he felt like a burden to her. As he puts it, he felt like a kid. She had to remind him to eat and get to work on time. Anytime they went out, she was having to pay because he didn't have anything. And yet with all this, he kept trying to feel like he was the man of the relationship. And to me, it's the final lines of this verse that really see SwaVay actually mature. He thought he was a grown man all this time, but still many times had the mentality of a child. He had somebody who was helping him out, and yet he was too naive to see it. And he realizes that as he looks back. She didn't need him. Matter of fact, as he looks back, he realizes a lot of people didn't need him. But he doesn't mean it in the way that they hate him or that he was a burden on their lives. No, as SwaVay reveals, he was too busy thinking everybody's life would be worse off without him in it. Essentially, he had this narcissistic view about his presence in people's lives. Not in a, I'm grateful to have this person in my life type of way, but in a way that sort of read as, you should be thankful to be graced by my presence. when in fact, these were the people who loved him and didn't mind offering him help if he just wasn't too stubborn to accept it. And he was too stubborn to see that there were positive influences in his life. Because of this childish mindset, he avoided counsel and guidance that could have easily corrected a lot of issues in his life. Essentially, in my eyes, he had a me versus the world mentality when in fact, he didn't have to face reality alone. SwaVay struggles with heavy guilt about it in this last verse. He not only feels bad for the way he treated people, but he even takes it to the extent saying that his life should be taken for the way he treated these people. He was selling his mother's medication to make money. He was making his girl's life a living hell. And only now does he realize it because he's a grown man. And that realization is all that he can be left with. The chorus just closes out with "I'm a grown man," repeating as the song slowly fades away. Almost in a sense like he's drowning from the guilt, from the pressure of it all. He's finally become a grown man and realized he needs help, but because of his mistakes, there's no one to save him.
I'm a grown man, I'm a grown.
That is, until Grown Man is a song of two parts, and this second part is all about vulnerability and hope. Speaking personally for a second, I just cannot get enough of the beat switch in this song. It is just the perfect tale of two halves. While the beginning is gritty and grimy with its mood and setting, this ending is more uplifting and upbeat, and SwaVay's mindset follows suit. The chorus for this section sees SwaVay finally come to the realization that he needs help. He needs something that will free him from everything. His past, his fears, his anger, his sadness, his confusion, and many more issues that are plaguing his life. So, he turns to God and just listen to him. Walking around with my head low, running from my name on a headstone, Lord, wrap your arms around me, I can feel the evils drowning me. This is a man that has truly hit rock bottom, and he's turning to God to help set him free. But it still isn't that simple for him. As we get into the first verse, we hear everything that plagues SwaVay's mind. He says, "How many times can the Lord forgive me? How many times can I ignore the spirit of the chosen one is within me? It's like I know it, but I can't see the day that he picks me. How many times can I cry out, Lord, permit me?" We see this battle within between him and his guilty conscience. He thinks about all the things he's done and asks if the Lord can truly forgive him for everything he's done. He knows the potential inside him, but he continues to deny it, so much so that he can't picture a future where it's his time to shine. And finally, even though he's barely said anything, even though he's barely starting to get into it, he asks God how much can he truly cry out for, even asking him for permission to continue on. SwaVay is a broken soul by this point in the song. He's a man who's never received help and always tried to do it himself. So, it's no surprise that he feels he may have a limit when it comes to receiving help or advice. He persists through it and continues to ask, how can I be about $1 when I'm saving up pennies? How can I really think that I could ever live to my 20s when evil is all around me? To me, that first line symbolizes a sort of struggle with greed in a sense, that never-ending chase for wealth. But we never see it as greed because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to escape poverty. So to me, it almost comes off as SwaVay trying to explain himself to God, essentially saying, God, how can it be greed if I'm trying to scrap pennies together just to make it by each day? Most of us aren't chasing this extreme wealth, just simply enough to live comfortably. The next line is one that I think a lot of us, and especially the younger generation, can relate to. That idea of living past 20 is foreign to many. A lot of us are so used to seeing those around us lose their lives early, both in the literal sense and the metaphorical sense. Many people in our communities die each year for various reasons. Suicide, violence, drugs, it's so many things. And in the same sense, we see our youth lose their lives to the same things. They get involved with gangs, with drugs, they struggle with mental illness, they get involved with the wrong people. Many of us are lucky and blessed to make it to a certain point in life. I know for myself, I broke down in tears not only when I turned 18, but 21 as well. I just never thought I would make it that far in life. Going back to his line in the chorus, many of us see our lives starting at a disadvantage. From the very beginning, whether it be the places we're born or the people that surround us, many of us feel how SwaVay feels, running from my name on a headstone. Death is everybody's fate. Nobody can escape it. But that doesn't stop us from being fearful when that time comes, especially because it could come at a moment's notice. And like I stated, many of us feel like it comes for some of us faster than others due to our circumstances. However, at the end of the day, it's something that's out of our control, like many things in this life. This theme continues with the next line in the verse where SwaVay is talking to his OG. He mentions how he watches his OG kill his kidneys, likely referring to the fact that he's a drinker. After that, OG tells him about how messed up his life is. His son is like SwaVay dealing drugs, and his daughter is a prostitute. SwaVay says that OG isn't even mad at his kids, stating that they're just living the life that they know. And we see this elaborated on when they mention that OG's ex-wife died from an overdose. And I wish we could get a bit more information on OG to make, a real good analysis on this part of the story and song. Was he not there for his kids, and thus as a result they turned to this life that they have now because they didn't have any parental figure? Was he there? But, obviously, like we can likely infer, the mother's passing would obviously have an effect on them. More so than, him trying to be there and guide them. Was he giving them guidance, but they just chose not to listen? Since we don't have a whole lot of info here, the only thing we can do is, choose to give OG the benefit of the doubt and say that it connects to this theme of things being out of our control. We can want the best for our kids and try to prevent them from seeing certain things, but eventually they're going to be on their own. They're going to make their own decisions. They're going to be their own person. And all we can do is offer help and guidance. But like SwaVay, you can't do anything if they don't want that help or realize that they need it. And that seems to be the approach OG has taken. Afterwards, we get SwaVay talking to OG about his own problems this time, and it's nice to see that he found an older, wiser figure to seek counsel from. He tells OG that everything around him is changing and he's struggling with all these thoughts that race across his mind. The most prominent one deals with his rap career. He talks about how he thinks a lot of these other rappers just have to be lying because of how easy they make it seem, especially when it comes to signing a deal with a record label. He sees the success of others and wonders why isn't it happening with him yet. He's hungry for it. He wants it. He doesn't want to fall behind the competition and lose opportunities. This is when OG comes in and tells him to slow down. He tells him, slow down, you need patience. You're the type to ruin your blessing because you're racing. The Lord gives you hope. The Lord gives you frustration. I really love this part of the verse because I think so many can relate. We always want to rush moments in our lives, forgetting that we need to put in the time and effort to get there. If you try and rush through life to get somewhere, you're going to miss everything on the way there. One blessing I can think of that perfectly illustrates this point made by OG is when it comes to art. The skill of art is one that takes time and effort in order to excel at it. If you try and rush art, it's not going to come out beautiful. Similarly, if SwaVay tries to rush his music career, is he ever going to put out anything of substance and meaning to him? A song like Grown Man likely isn't made in 10 minutes. In fact, it took a whole lifetime of experiences for SwaVay to be able to write this song, which further illustrates OG's point that the Lord gives you hope and he gives you frustration. He wants you to push through the dark times because it will eventually mold you into a better person. Some people might ask, why should we have to go through bad times to get there? And OG has the answer on that next line. He tells SwaVay, you're the type to make the wrong turn the destination. This right here is my favorite line from the entire song. It just speaks so much to the human condition of freedom. You could be given instructions on how to do something and it will always be like our default setting to go against it. To think you know better. Again, connecting back to that first half of the song where SwaVay thought he knew it all and nobody could tell him anything. OG himself likely made similar mistakes, and it's because of that he is now here to advise the younger generation. We're all going to make mistakes in life. We're all going to want to do things in life. However, when people are trying to get you to not do something or not go down a certain path, it's likely because they have experienced it or have seen it and know it is not the right way to do things. Like he says, we many times are too self-absorbed to realize we are wrong. that we know better, and that the path we're going down is our destination. Let's say we want to continue being stubborn though, not admit that we're wrong, that we didn't make the wrong turn. Well, OG puts it simply. You're the type to end up on a preemie vacation, the dead, just a young man with a gift who couldn't reap the benefits because you were out here in the six BSing. Made your own mama heart cry for you, don't die for no city that won't die for you. You can keep letting other people influence you, tempt you into a dangerous lifestyle. Go right on ahead. Just don't be surprised when you end up in the cycle that our generations have been trying to break for years. All the things that I talked about earlier. Losing your life young. Unable to capitalize on the blessings and abilities one has because they get involved in the wrong life. Instead of trying to correct it, they accept it. Change can be made. The cycle that many of our cultures find ourselves stuck in, they can be broken. But it only happens once you accept the many wrongs in our life and that we don't know better. I love the last line from OG. You can call yourself a grown man. You can think that you're better than others, that you know better than others. But you're the fool that's giving your life for a city, for a cause, for people who wouldn't even do the same thing for you. And all it does is make the lives of those around you even harder. The hardships weren't what made SwaVay a grown man. It was what he learned from them, and the change and the growth that they evoked from him. That's what made him a grown man. A man who realized he is only one man. He can't do it all. So he turns to the Lord for help as he closes off the song saying,
Running for my name on a headstone. Lord, wrap your arms around me. I can feel the evils drowning.